My name is Paul Hobby, and I am here as the MC, I suppose, of this short but happy occasion to introduce you formally to the candidacy of Rick Noriega for the United States Senate. He has, of course, announced an exploratory committee of which I am chair, and today we are just showcasing some of the coalition, particularly here in the Houston area, that is coalescing around this candidacy. It's particularly appropriate that it would be in this venue. To be in the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston during hurricane season is a familiar place. In fact, it's a homecoming of sorts for Colonel Noriega because, as all of you remember, on really no notice and no sleep, he demonstrated the administrative competence, the bias for action as opposed to words that has characterized all of his public service, and he organized something that's really unique in all the world. And not to say he didn't have a lot of help doing that, but the George R. Brown Convention Center, in a way that he could have never imagined, has become an important part of his public legacy, an important part of his qualification for this high office that he now seeks. A statement from Governor Dolph Briscoe. When I think of Texas, with all of her storied past, her sense of independence, and her history of great leaders, I also think of the responsibility that comes with being a U.S. Senator from this great state. Texas needs someone who will represent us well, fight the good fight, and make us proud. That humble public servant is Rick Noriega. I think in these times, an essential criteria for representing Texas in the United States Senate is service in the military, a person who has walked the walk. Rick's service to his country in Afghanistan makes Texans proud, and he does not shirk from his duty as a citizen either, speaking out on the need to honor our veterans with the health care they deserve and the need to remove partisan rhetoric and the rhetoric of fear from the debate over our presence in Iraq. Rick understands that Texans are not afraid and that we are not followers. In the legislature, Rick speaks out not just for his constituency, but for the state as a whole, a leader, a volunteer, a humanitarian. Texans must seize this opportunity to elect a United States Senator who represents the best Texas has to offer.
Rick Noriega is the kind of person that ought to represent Texas in the United States Senate. His career, his distinguished career of public service in the military and the legislature, you're all familiar with.
When you think about Rick Noriega, you think about the fact that Rick Noriega has lived out a warrior's ethos, leave no man behind, from the battlefield of the legislature, and that is a battlefield, and then the community. In the legislature, Rick fought for all Texas children to have adequate health insurance. And here in this very building, as I mentioned in the George R. Brown, he proved that compassion is not a weakness, but part of the very fabric of who we are as Texans. That's the type of leadership we need in the United States Senate.
It's exciting that we have a young person who has obtained the experience that Rick has, not only in the military, but his public service, his issues during the Karina crisis, but the ability to unify us. That's what we so desperately need in the state of Texas. With the issues facing us, whether it be health care or public safety, Rick is going to bring us together and speak with one voice.
You know, you look at what he's done in his education. He works for a company for a long time, and now he's gotten 10 years behind his belt in the legislature. Obviously, he's got the credentials. He brings a change. He brings a refreshing voice. And he's a soldier. Those soldiers out there that are all aligned, men and women, that are fighting for us, just like Rick Noriega did in Afghanistan, that those soldiers are going to look at Rick and say, he's one of us. He's one of ours. He's got the credentials. He's going to win.